anyway, we'll keep it rolling on today's show into our top 10 free agents at the quarterback position. Now, a fair warning here, Cam. Some of these guys are not really all that good.
Yeah, especially to start.
Yeah. But we'll take it through here. We have some teams that could be interested, and of course, that list will change throughout. We made some changes after the Alex Smith move, which took the Redskins out of all these options.
Right.
But we'll get to number 10 here, and we start with good old Fitzy,
the
Ryan
gunslinger.
Fitzpatrick.
Absolutely. The NFL version of Cam Rodgers at the quarterback position. This guy takes risks. He fires the football, but his career is slowly coming to an end. Now, he has said that he's not ready to retire yet. His kids are in school in Tampa Bay. He likes where he is down there in the Sunshine State. So I could see a scenario where the Buccaneers re-sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, keep him in Tampa Bay. He is a quality backup. In fact, started a few games with Jameis Winston dealing with the AC joint injury and all that. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, there are worse backup quarterbacks out there in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, frankly, would be kind of lucky to have him to back up Jameis Winston.
I mean, he's fine. Look, he is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It's all relative.
He's not a guy that you really want starting. And I see, can you put the Ravens on here?
Yes. So,
Who would you rather start, Flacco or Fitz?
Flacco, obviously. God, what kind of question is that?
I couldn't resist.
The Ravens, yeah, are working out some potential backup quarterbacks to Joe Flacco.
Like
Ryan Mallon's going to be a free agent.
Ooh, well, he's bad anyway.
He's awful, and I don't want him to back up Joe Flacco. So I think there's an opportunity where Ryan Fitzpatrick could go to Baltimore and back up Flacco. I think, it would be a bit of a move, and Ryan Fitzpatrick has talked about how he likes the stability in Tampa Bay, but still, it's a business. I could see the Ravens going out and trying to grab Ryan. And also, Green Bay, Brett Hundley, we know what we're going to get out of him. Why not bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick for a little competition with Hundley and see who wins out the backup spot?
Let's keep it rolling then to number 9 on our list of top 10 free agent quarterbacks. At number 9, Cam, another veteran stopgap journeyman quarterback, Josh McCown.
Honestly, they're very, very similar in that regard, how they have been everywhere. But you know what? Josh McCown is the better quarterback, at least better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Look, he's not a long-term option for anybody out there. He's getting up there in age. He's approaching his 40s. We have some teams likely interested in Josh. You have the Cardinals. You have the Jets, perhaps might just re-sign him. Got the Buccaneers as well if Ryan Fitzpatrick walks. But for McCown here, he overall had a solid campaign for the Jets. And, look at the numbers. They're pretty darn good. 67.3 completion percentage is really good when your number 1 wide receiver is Robbie Anderson, Tom.
Who is now in all kinds of legal issues.
Yes, so then that's a story for another day. So for Josh McCown, I mean, there's going to be a market for him. Not the biggest market in the world, not as big as the names we'll get to later. But the Cardinals, you've heard about Steve Wilkes. He wants to be aggressive in free agency. Could they try and maybe reach out to McCown and bring him in?
I don't know if McCown qualifies as aggressiveness.
That's true. But, the fact is the Cardinals, they don't have any quarterbacks on the roster. They got to fill it somehow.
True. It's very true.
So perhaps they reach out to Josh McCown, go to the draft as well, trade up and get a Baker Mayfield, however it goes. But McCown is going to be a quality backup in the NFL because he's still playing at a solid level and could be a good mentor, too, for a younger quarterback.
All right, so Josh McCown checks in at number 9. Let's get then to number 8 on our list of top 10 free agent quarterbacks. At number 8, it's smoking Jay Cutty.
Yeah, he done.
Yeah. Well, maybe the Dolphins bring him back. I threw it out there.
I don't know. They're going to have to restructure, or not restructure, but do a deal that's much less than what he got in 2017.
I don't know if Cutler wants to do that.
And there you have the teams likely interested. NFL on Fox, because he did leave the broadcast booth to join the Miami Dolphins and Adam Gase and the reunion and all that stuff, and that didn't work out too hot. So maybe he goes back to the broadcast booth. I think he's likely headed for retirement, although maybe he still has that itch to play, but it's Jay Cutler. Does anybody want him?
No one wanted him last offseason. He only came back because of Adam Gase and the Dolphins because Tannehill went down.
He was desperate.
Maybe you see something similar where a quarterback gets hurt and they go, oh, man, who do we get? Oh, let's just go with Cutler. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But it does seem more likely that he's going to be a broadcaster. So, Cam, my question to you and everyone watching, does Jay Cutler as a broadcaster interest you at all? I mean, we saw what Tony Romo did.
Hard no.
Why?
Absolutely not. Because Jay Cutler doesn't have the personality like Tony Romo.
He doesn't. But Jay Cutler doesn't care. Jay Cutler could be the great guy that just says whatever he's thinking and is really mean to NFL players, and it could be hilarious.
to do a golf comparison, could be the next Johnny Miller.
Okay, just constantly rips on players.
Saying one-liners and all that. Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe we could see a situation where that happens, but I don't know. I mean, I think out of intrigue, maybe I'll be somewhat interested just for the initial part of it to see how he does. But I don't know, Tom. Like, Tony Romo even kind of rubbed me the wrong way a few times this year, and you even, like, really saw Jim Nantz get frustrated with Romo because he was kind of off-kilter sometimes.
Not as much as he did with Phil Simms.
That's true. That's
All
true.
right. So Cutler there, keep those comments flowing, folks. We'll get then to number 7 on our list. And this one is an asterisk because we don't know if he's an unrestricted free agent or a restricted free agent. A.J. McCarron.
Yeah, so Tom, really weird situation here. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. The NFLPA is making the case that McCarron should be designated as an unrestricted free agent, while the league itself, and essentially the Bengals, are arguing that he should be a restricted free agent. So McCarron's argument is he was healthy enough his rookie season to come off the non-football injury list during training camp, but the Bengals chose to leave him there. So by leaving McCarron on the list for the length the Bengals did, it prevented him from having a season accrued on his contract. So if McCarron is ruled to be a restricted free agent, and by the way, we're going to hear this ruling sometime this month, according to reports.
Oh, that's right, it's February now.
Yes, there you go. The Bengals can place a high tender on him, and he'd likely stay, or if someone signs McCarron to an offer sheet, the Bengals would get rewarded with a high draft pick if they didn't match that sheet. So it's a really odd situation here, and we have the Cleveland Browns there, by the way, because, well, remember when they tried to make a move on McCarron?
They had a deal agreed to, and then the paperwork didn't go through for differing reasons as to what happened there. There have been a whole bunch of reports that they just didn't get it in on time, to the Browns forgot to turn it in, to Sashi Brown tanked the trade on purpose, and it was going to be a second and third round pick for A.J. McCarron, which, by the way, is a terrible deal for Cleveland. I'll be honest, I don't think A.J. McCarron's all that good.
I think he deserves an opportunity. I will say that. And so that's why we have a few of these teams here. The Minnesota Vikings, their 3 quarterbacks are going to be free agents. We already talked about the Cardinals and what they need to do at the quarterback position. So maybe McCarron gets pulled in. And by the way, this has to be decided if he is a UFA or a restricted free agent. But maybe McCarron could be a guy to bring in and give him a shot. We haven't seen enough of him yet, and I think the jury is still out. At least my jury is still out on deciding whether or not McCarron is a starting quality quarterback in the NFL.
People like to point to that 2015 campaign with the Bengals when he took over for the injured Andy Dalton. Dalton had his best year ever, by the way, but that was an actually good Jeremy Hill, Mohamed Sanu, Marvin Jones, A.J. Green, Rex Burkhead played a little bit of a role there.
Really good O-line, too.
A healthy Tyler Eifert and a great offensive line. So that team was loaded. It's all been stayed healthy. Maybe they actually would have won a playoff game. That would have been funny. There.
Well, if, Vontaze Burfict didn't do perfect things in that game.
That's very true. So A.J. McCarron there checks in at number 7. Unsure if he's unrestricted or restricted, but we'll find out at some point in the coming weeks. Keep it rolling now. We'll get to number 6 on our top 10 free agents this offseason at quarterback. And it's good old Sammy Sleeves, the injured Vikings quarterback, Sammy Bradford.
Ah, yes, Sam Bradford, the former #1 overall pick eons ago, it seems. And there you see the stat. Hasn't played in all 16 games since 2012. He has shown so many flashes, but he just can't stay on the football field. In fact, when I have analyzed the quarterback situation for the Vikings, it's safe to say Sam Bradford is the most likely candidate to leave Minnesota compared to Case Keenum or Teddy Bridgewater. So for Sam Bradford, we have the teams interested as the Vikings, the Cardinals, because why not? The Broncos could go out and try to grab him. The Jets as well. We know they don't have an answer on their roster at quarterback either. Bradford's going to get a market, Tom. I mean, he's going to get a fair share of calls about joining whatever squad is giving him a ring. So I think Sam Bradford will be a quality option for those teams there, for the Cardinals, Broncos, and Jets, and perhaps more, we shall see. Maybe the Dolphins, who knows?
Yeah, with quarterback, I think it's a little bit more than just the 4-3, whatever we put down here, because there's so much room to change still.
And I think, Tom, by the way, just a quick tangent, this is going to be a really exciting free agency time at the quarterback position. We could see a lot of turnover. So, and Bradford's going to be part of that. Where he goes, he's one of the more difficult ones for me to predict. But Cardinals, Broncos, Jets certainly makes some sense. The Bills, you could throw them in there as well. So,
for those of you just joining us, here are the quarterbacks we've gone through so far. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh McCown, Smokin' Jay Cutler, A.J. McCarron, and Sam Bradford. That takes us into the top 5 now, and we'll stick with the same team as we head to one Teddy Bridgewater of Minnesota.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is most likely to remain in Minnesota. Look, Minnesota Vikings put a lot of investment into this kid, and they want to see what kind of return they can get. Yeah, we saw his flashes from the 2015 campaign when he took the Vikings to the playoffs, and if it weren't for Blair Walsh, who knows how deep they could have gone. And I think the Vikings are going to be smart in this and actually re-sign Teddy Bridgewater. In fact, make him the starter in 2018 in Week 1. I think that is the best route for the Minnesota Vikings to go. I think they have to find out if Teddy Bridgewater is the franchise quarterback. Yeah, he had the brutal injury and all that. But it's time to get your answer, and I think they can get that answer in 2018. We have some other options there, the Cardinals, the Bills, the Jaguars even, although reports suggest that Blake Bortles is going to be their guy, whatever.
Quick tangent here with Blake Bortles. His wrist surgery actually might have been him finessing the Jaguars and having to guarantee his deal. Because if he's not healthy by March 19th, they can't cut him because his contract is guaranteed for injury. I know. Blake Bortles playing the long game, baby.
Unbelievable.
Love it.
But yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, I see him remaining in Minneapolis.
All right, I agree with you there. And I'm a big fan of Teddy Two Gloves. He was my #1 quarterback coming out of that year's class. I just want to see him stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I think he's got a lot of upside.
Absolutely.
Keep it rolling then. We'll go to number 4 on our top free agent quarterbacks list. And, well, as it turns out, we're going to stick with the same team one more time. We'll head to Case Keenum coming off a career year for Minnesota.
Yeah, so Case Keenum, he's going to have a market too, and apparently the Denver Broncos are making a big-time run at this guy along with another quarterback that we will get to. But for Case Keenum, what a year he had, and the only concern with me is, was he just a flash in the pan with the magic of Pat Shurmur?
That one.
So there you go. With Pat Shurmur moving on to the Giants now to be the head coach in the Big Apple, with Case Keenum almost like a puppy lost in the rain, kind of left behind by Pat Shurmur, will he continue to thrive? That is the big question mark for me. For Case Keenum, though, if he were to go to Denver, Bill Musgrave, a solid offensive coordinator out there, Arizona would make sense as well, of course, because, well,
they need a quarterback so badly.
Somebody to fill in under center, somebody out there. So, you know, I could see that happening as well. Could also see him remaining in Minnesota. I said that Sam Bradford is likely to move on, but Case Keenum could certainly move on as well, especially if he hears word that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the starter in Week 1 of 2018. I think Case Keenum understands that, look, I had a really good year. I want to be a starter in 2018. And if you, and I'm talking about the Vikings, don't give me that opportunity, I'm going to test the free agent market, and I could see that scenario actually coming to fruition.
Let's get to our top 3 then. And Cam, it is very rare that we see a quarterback of this caliber actually hit the open market. And yet here we are, Kirk Cousins. He's not going back to Washington. So where does he go?
This is fun, isn't it? So a lot of teams in the mix here for Kirk Cousins. We have the Denver Broncos. Of course, John Elway is going to make quite a run at him. Arizona Cardinals, Cleveland Browns have a ton of cap space. The Jets could free up some cap space as well if they make a few cuts. So Kirk Cousins. So you have separate arguments for separate teams. You have Jeremy Bates, the offensive coordinator for the Jets, and the ties that Kirk Cousins has to him through Mike Shanahan. You have the cap space and the money that the Cleveland Browns can provide. You could have even the Buffalo Bills in that mix. I know they're not listed there, but we could talk about them as well if they do some salary cap cuts and free up some space and, you know, perhaps bring in Kirk Cousins as their quarterback in the AFC East. And look, I think the Denver Broncos would be the best team for Kirk if he wants to win a Super Bowl. Still have a championship caliber defense. If the Broncos can address the offensive line of the draft, maybe get a Quentin Nelson and improve that interior, and C.J. Anderson has a solid 2018 season, look, you're looking at perhaps the AFC West winners there, because Patrick Mahomes could have some learning curve going on and, you know, some growing pains, and we don't know about the Chargers. They're too Jekyll and Hyde, and the Raiders, well, they need to improve big time. So maybe the opportunity is there for Denver to capture the West again, especially if they get Kirk Cousins.
If he wants the money, he'll go to Cleveland because they can offer him all of the money that he could possibly want.
Yep.
If he wants to really, really win, I think Denver does make the most sense. If he wants maybe a little bit more of a balance with some familiarity with Jeremy Bates, Cousins speaks very highly of Jeremy Bates, the new Jets OC, maybe he goes to New York then.
Yeah, and the Cardinals are in a really odd situation here, Tom, because they're picking number 15 overall in the draft. So they're not going to get one of the top-tier quarterbacks, right? So they're going to have to either make a move in the draft or they're going to have to go wild in free agency. Oh, and by the way, cut some players because they don't have the most cap space in the world, and we'll talk about a rumor of the Cardinals cutting one big-time household name later in the show. But the situation for the Cardinals in the 5th worst cap position, they're going to have to make some moves and free up some space if they want to bring in Kirk.
Raphael says Denver in the comments, and Jorge Romero says Eagles, but I think that might have been about Patriots versus Eagles. But
probably.
That is what it is. So Cousins checks in at number 3. Let's get then to number 2, a.k.a. the they're not leaving category. And at number 2, it is Drew Brees. He's already said he's supposed to stay with the Saints next year. He's not going to leave New Orleans.
Yeah, they're going to get it done some way, somehow. Now, if things drag out more than we really anticipated, that's going to be a concern. Because if you go back to 2012, the last time Drew Brees was in contract negotiations with the Saints, he was actually publicly frustrated. So
vocally as well.
Absolutely. And so what Drew Brees wants, Tom, and what every quarterback wants, is security, job security. Meanwhile, the Saints leadership, this is where I could see some sort of tangle and frustration, wants more of a one-year kind of kick the can down the road type of deal because Drew Brees, let's face it, is not getting any younger. And the Saints don't want to invest long-term in Drew if they know that his play is going to kind of go down a little bit and gradually decrease. Look, his numbers were fantastic in 2017. There you see the completion percentage at 72%. It's fantastic, and it's not like Drew Brees is a dink and dunker either. So that's where I could see some areas of frustration and maybe some plot twists or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're going to get something done. Drew Brees will remain in New Orleans.
An interesting contract situation for the Saints and Drew Brees. He signed a 5-year extension a couple years ago, but the contract automatically voids this year, and it leaves $18 million in dead money on the Saints cap no matter what. It was a, let's not worry about the cap this year, let's make it easier for Brees, and then they're paying the price this offseason.
Absolutely.
It's a very strange contract, but he'll be a free agent, but he'll be back in New Orleans as well. That brings us to number 1 on our top 10 free agent quarterback list, and you think you'd be able to narrow it down. It is one Jimmy Garoppolo. He's number 1, Cam, over Drew Brees, because if they both actually hit the open market, Jimmy G would get a lot more money.
Yeah, Jimmy G would get paid.
Because of the age.
He would get paid big time, and of course, took the 49ers to a 5-0 record last year as the starter. There you see the numbers there, pretty solid. And Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get a better cast of characters in 2018 as well. The 49ers may go out and try to grab an Allen Robinson if he doesn't get franchise tagged by the Jaguars, or perhaps a Jarvis Landry to play in the slot. I know Trent Taylor is a solid piece there as well. And look, you got Garcon and Marquise Goodwin too. It's all setting up nicely for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not going anywhere, and I did read an actual article, Tom.
Don't spoil it, because we're going to get to it later.
Oh, we are, yeah, that's right. I don't want to talk about it then. Good point.
It's really bad. We'll get to it later about Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins, but we do have a comment here coming in from one Daniel says, Jimmy is nowhere near better than Brees or Cousins yet. Hell, he wouldn't even say that he's better than Keenum yet. I disagree on Keenum. I would actually lean more towards Jimmy G over Cousins, but I do agree with you on Brees. And again, here's why he's number 1. If both these quarterbacks hit the open market, Jimmy G would get paid more because age matters. And look how much better the Niners looked with Jimmy G at the helm than they did with anyone else.
We're not talking about who do you want to play quarterback for one game tomorrow.
Yes, exactly.
We're talking about longevity.
Exactly.
At the end of the day. So, there you go.
Reaction poll now, Cam. Should the 49ers franchise tag Jimmy Garoppolo? It's an obvious like for me. Like, I don't really think they need to punt it down a year, unless you're actually not sold on Garappolo.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, is 5 games enough for a sample size if you are the 49ers leadership, most notably John Lynch? And if it's not, then yes, the franchise tag makes sense. Get a full year from Garoppolo and see how it goes. But at the same time, you almost risk tainting that relationship that you have.
Yeah.
And so I think a long-term deal from a monetary standpoint is actually cheaper, and from just a relationship standpoint, I think it makes more sense. You need to tell Jimmy Garoppolo, and you kind of did via the trade, that You are my guy, and I'm going to lock you in to be my guy in the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers going forward.
The opposite of the Kirk Cousins in Washington scenario.
That is exactly
Okay.
right, Tom.
Now I get it.
Don't be the Washington Redskins. Don't Kirk Cousins this, 49ers. I'm throwing up my leg, too.
All right, if you missed our top 10 quarterbacks, here they are: Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh McCown, Jay Cutler, A.J. McCarron, and Sam Bradford at number 6. At number 5 is Teddy Bridgewater, then Case Keenum. Number 3 is Kirk Cousins. Number 2 is Drew Brees. And number 1 is Jimmy G.Q.